Hey, welcome to Take a Mulligan Podcast. We're glad that you're here with us tonight. And it's been a little while since we've been together, Kenny and I. So we're excited to be back together to just chat with one another and just talk about some things that have been going on in our lives and in the world and other things around. So welcome. And Ken, good to have you back on.
It is. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
been a
goodness,
while.
too much has been going on. So yeah, we've been moving. So that's been like just up in arms about not up in arms, probably wrong phrase, but just been things have just been crazy. So
Yeah, a
finally
lot of
getting
life
settled.
stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of life stuff going on. So yeah, it'd be good to get
Yeah.
back in this swing. So
Yeah, so we thought
so
since we got back on, we'd talk about a lot of stuff's happened in the world and in our country since the last we spoke together, and since the
sure
last we've been
has.
on here for a show. So we thought we would jump into a hot topic that happened a few months ago, and that is the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I thought we'd kind of talk a little bit about that and just different thoughts on his death and what that means and different aspects that it affected in our country, in our culture, in our faith. Even it spans so many different aspects of life and culture here in the country. So I thought we would kind of jump into that a little bit and just talk about thoughts on that.
So you when you mentioned this topic, Brian, I was like, sure, I'll talk about it. I've been hearing a lot of stuff about him, and but honestly, I just saw probably a few video clips and stuff here and there before all this
Okay.
took place. So and probably where he was on campuses, where he was just
Yeah.
having intergaging. I'm sure they was posting, they posted on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So I caught a few here and there, and I was like, man, this guy's really sharp. Like this is really sharp, man. I wish I could think that quick. And and that's all I knew about him, honestly. That's about
Okay.
it. So when did you get introduced to him? Like when did he hit like your radar?
Yeah, I think probably about 4 years ago, I guess. Honestly, I think I started seeing him pop up on Facebook Reels and videos on there, and then just other things that I follow. I mean, more conservative type stuff. It would pop up, and I would hear from him, and then all of a sudden, I feel like at the same time I was starting to kind of find things a couple years later. Then all of a sudden, like my kids were starting to listen to some of his stuff, and I'm sure it was the same for them. It just started to pop up on their social media feeds,
Okay.
based on algorithms and them listening to conservative stuff or even faith-based stuff,
So,
because he kind of hit across all avenues of that. So I
yeah.
listened to quite a few, and a lot of them were just a short, videos,
So
reels, clips, whatever, on all the
okay.
social media aspects.
So
And
were you familiar with how like was he this huge person in your mind, or was he like, oh, I'm just listening to this guy and it's one of many and just you know what
yeah,
I mean?
it's funny because I think when I first saw a couple of his, like I could tell it was early on because it was literally him at a table on a college campus, and there was like hardly anybody around, and he was like, whatever his tagline was about ask me a question, and then he would engage with people. And then as I watched more and more videos over the years, you saw it grow and grow and grow. So I didn't really know a whole lot more about him until the last probably year or so, when I understood that he was part of Turning Point USA and what that's all about, and
Okay.
just all these other organizations that were kind of connected to him and interconnected with him. But I just enjoyed watching his conversations and his interactions with the college students. I thought it was fascinating just to have them come up to an open mic and ask questions and just have him give an answer.
Yeah.
And it's a shame it's so controversial to even like probably even have this podcast to talk about it. It's just so sad that you can't talk about someone who was killed in cold blood because he was speaking what he believed in front of thousands of students every day, and it's still a controversy to talk about. It's kind of
It,
sad.
it is. Well, I guess what's so interesting is it's such a dichotomy, right? The right word of exactly what his life was, because
Mm,
from what I understand, I mean, watching the short clips that I saw, he was so open minded. Like,
mm,
hey, I just want to talk to you. I just want to hear, and here's where I am. Here's where I'm coming from. But I want to hear. I really want to hear what you believe. I really want to hear where your thought process is. And it seems like everybody's like taking the 180 degree of who this guy was. Like that's what you're
yeah.
hearing in the media, and it is
Mm,
really sad because it's not remembering who he was. Again, my limited understanding of who he was. So yeah, it is sad to watch. I really came in contact, I guess, and learned more about who he was through the day it happened. Really, I mean, all of a sudden it was
Okay.
like, oh my goodness, and I'm like, Charlie Kirk was just assassinated. An assassination like that. I mean, just harp on that for a minute. Like,
Yeah.
that blows me away. Like, I mean, when was the last assassination we've had? Like that.
Yeah. I mean, JFK was probably the last one, or right?
Now, if they no, there's been. I mean, I'm thinking like the Beatles guy. That was after
Oh,
JFK, right?
John Lennon.
Yeah, John
Oh,
Lennon
yeah,
assassinated.
that's
That
true. I
was
mean, yeah,
huge,
yeah. I mean, there's been
right?
multiple assassinations, but I mean, even an assassination attempt on Trump. I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
Yes, I'm just
Um,
thinking of like,
Somebody
but
actually killed that way.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so John Lennon. Then trying to think, has there been some others? Do you remember any others offhand?
No, I mean, I know the other Kennedy was assassinated as
That's
well.
true. He was.
Um, yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a lot. I mean, in our lifetime, I mean, you're a little bit older than me, but Martin Luther King, like,
Yeah.
this is the one that I remember, and I probably will always remember because this is in my lifetime, and this
Yeah.
is definitely somebody that I was connecting with through social media and just through different avenues of videos and stuff. And I started to watch more and more, a lot of YouTube stuff too. I watched, so I would see a lot of clips come up on YouTube, different interviews he was in, and it was fascinating to me, really, because after I watched more and more and saw him over the years, some of the videos that would come up were older, but the things that really stood out to me was, one is he was just unapologetic about his faith.
Mhm.
And he literally would preach the gospel wherever he went, and he wasn't ashamed of it, and he didn't care that he was saying it. And that was the basis for everything that he would discuss beyond that. So whether it was transgender issues, or whether it was racial issues, or elections, or politics, or anything else, he always based it on Christianity and his faith.
Yeah.
And he was very bold in that, and I appreciated that, and I actually really respected him for that.
And yet he wasn't. And this is that's so weird. Is like he was bold, and yet he was gentle.
Yeah. Well, that's the tricky part, because I think a lot of people don't look at it that way, that he was gentle,
Yeah.
because he was firm. And as I've watched more and more videos of him, I think the thing that frustrated me a lot was the people that right away, one, were cheering his death, which is just, that's
Just
absurdly disgusting,
yeah.
is to cheer the death of
Yeah.
anybody.
Any culture, could get
Anybody. I
there.
don't
Yeah.
care
Yeah.
who it is, what they stand
Yeah.
for, to cheer their death is pretty absurd. And also for a guy that was nonviolent, he didn't commit any violence against anybody,
Yeah.
didn't show hatred towards anybody, and people were cheering his death. And I think it's really disgusting to watch that, and
Yeah.
how many politicians and celebrities were very, very vocal about that was really disturbing.
Yeah.
And I think to get back to what I was saying about, some people didn't think he was very kind in the way he went about it, is I think what I recognized as I watched him, and I would encourage anybody who doesn't really know much about him to go watch his videos, because it's
Get
pretty plain as day if you watch
yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Get to know
That
him. Don't listen to what everybody else is
Yeah,
saying. Just
exactly.
listen to who he is. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Which we should do with anybody.
Yeah.
Which a lot of times I don't think, like, even if somebody's way out to lunch on whatever view you think of, we don't listen to that person.
Yeah.
We don't read their book. We just go with what everybody else says, and that's
We don't even
horrible.
listen to their actual quote or a
No.
video of them actually speaking. We just,
No.
some line comes up on social media and everybody runs with it and says, "Oh, I can't believe they said this," and I don't like that person because they said this, and they don't know anything else about the context of where it came from. And it's kind of sad that that's the culture we're in.
It is, and it's all people across all kinds of lines. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just people are not taking enough time to just get to know, what is this person saying, what are the context. I mean, I remember back in school reading a book, and the book was How to Read a Book, and it basically said you had to read a book 3 times before you really understood what the author was saying. and I get that, because the first time you're just sort of skimming through it, you're just trying to, okay, I get the
Yeah.
gist, but then I got to go back and I got to really read it for what it is, and then if I really want to get something out of it, now I go back and read it again. And you just think of how many people, like you're saying, they just take one little line, one little blurb, and it's like, oh, I know who this guy is. And it's like, no, you don't. You have no idea,
Yeah, and I think
Uh,
what I realized is, if you listen to him speaking, he was firm at times. He was very firm, so it didn't always come across like lovey-dovey to people. And I think that's where some people were like, "Oh, he wasn't very nice. He didn't," and it was more because he didn't agree with their side of things either.
yeah,
So of
yeah,
course, when you don't agree with it, all of a sudden, oh, he's a meanie. He's hatred towards me. He's not showing love towards me. And instead, he was always speaking truth. So I mean, I know there's a lot of big topics that he talked about consistently on college campuses.
yeah,
One was abortion, one was transgender, one was race, and those are really, really hot topics.
yeah,
But in the reality of it all, if you're speaking the truth about those topics, not just the emotion or your feelings about them, it's a lot easier, or should be easier, I guess I should say, to actually have a conversation. And it was pretty wild to watch how he would just sit there and I was fascinated by how this guy was just a wealth of knowledge. I don't know if he had um, photographic memory or what, but his knowledge on politics, on the Constitution, on the history of our country, on the Bible, on Christianity, it was just unbelievable. Like, to sit there in front of a sometimes really harsh crowd and just be able to spew off facts without even looking at his phone.
mm,
I mean, the stats that would come out, the Bible verses that would come out that were relevant to a topic, it's really fascinating. So, again, whether you like the guy or not, you should at least enjoy the fact that the guy knew a lot of stuff and had a lot of
yeah.
information at his fingertips. And it wasn't looking stuff up. Like, most of the students would come up and look at their phone and
They're
wouldn't really
Googling
have a whole
stuff.
lot of answers. And he's just spewing stuff off. And I think the other thing that was really fascinating about him, if you watch any of the videos, is every time they would come up to the microphone at the college campuses, he would ask them, what they were here for, what their question was. He puts the microphone down every single time. And I think that was a huge, huge deal, because that to me indicates he's listening. He's putting the mic down. He's not even going to speak until he hears what they have to say. And then he picks it up each time he wants to say something. So
Yeah,
I don't know how much they picked up on that when the college students were coming up to the microphone, but to have somebody that puts the microphone down, that's their voice, to just listen to what they have to say, I think that spoke volumes. And it's just sad that we don't do that enough. We don't have
yeah.
discussions anymore.
And we all could be doing that, putting the mic
Yeah.
down figuratively
Yeah.
and just listening in on conversations, because it is hard. I mean, I'm a very, um, I'd say, task oriented. I guess I like to accomplish things. It's like, oh, I got to do this,
Mm.
I got to do this, got to do this. Right? I'm sure you got your to do list too, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's hard to engage
Hmm.
because you're just, I got to do this, and we don't take the time to listen. We don't take the time to just wait a second. Let me just put this in perspective and think about this for a minute. And so, yeah, what an example to just listen to other people. And that's where I
Yeah.
think Jesus went all the time. He didn't he didn't go with what other people thought. He just
Yeah.
engaged people where they were at and just learned to love on them, and non-judgmental, just
Yeah.
but never losing his conviction either.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. And I also feel like that's why, for me personally and my family, my wife, Kim, like, we kind of, we were hit pretty hard by that, and by that assassination. And I think I kind of kept trying to figure out, like, why do I feel like I kind of knew this guy and he died, and I just feel like something's weird. And I think what it is it's just, this is a guy that shares the same faith and beliefs that I do, has a lot of the same political viewpoints and conservative values that I do, and he
Mhm.
was killed for it. He was killed for that. I mean, there's no other way to look at it
Yeah,
besides the
yeah,
fact that he was killed for the stuff that he spoke on
yeah,
and believed.
yeah,
And so to see a guy killed for the same things that I believe, that's a little frightening and disheartening to watch that and go through
yeah,
that. And I think that's why it hit me so hard. Yeah, I didn't know Charlie Kirk personally at all, but you kind of felt like you knew him when you watched enough of his stuff, because you heard who he was. You
yeah,
could get to see who he was. And I mean, I saw videos, off camera with his kids and his wife, and I mean, the guy he was a great guy. I mean, just because he didn't believe the same things everybody else did doesn't make him a bad guy.
yeah. I guess, I mean, you hit it right on the head though with the I mean, when someone that you can connect with in any way, shape, or form
Yeah.
is literally murdered like that, that's that's horrible. And the level of hatred that someone can
Mhm.
muster to take a life of another person is just it's beyond real.
Yeah.
It's just it's horrible. We you think as a culture we'd be rallying around the fact that our culture has gotten to a point where we're not upset about it. Like, oh my goodness, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, like I
Uh,
said, you had, I don't know if it's half or what the percentage was, but a lot of people who were cheering that on. So instead of bringing
yeah,
people together for such a tragedy like that, it's like we're in such a different world now than we were at, like, 9/11,
yeah,
where we all rallied together. And now we got a guy that's being assassinated on a public stage, and half the country's like cheering it on and glad that it happened. Like he
yeah,
deserved it and all these, all this nonsense. And it's sad. But I think it's a picture of where we're at and how divided we are right now.
yeah,
And I think his influence was so big. And I think that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize, especially the people that didn't care for him, that didn't agree with him, is he had a huge, huge following, not just in this country, but worldwide.
hmm,
And that was very evident after his death and the memorials that people had all over the world in his honor and remembrances for him. I mean,
yeah,
that's not just a small guy that just, went to a few college campuses and tried to make a difference. I mean, he made a huge impact.
yeah, yeah,
And I think a lot of it too is, his political stance. I think that's what divided everything. He was a very staunch Trump supporter and very staunch Republican and
okay,
conservative. And, those terms are all division now.
yeah,
You can't just say those things without people hating you for it just because of where you stand. And I think that's what caused a lot of people to, really hate him, is just
yeah,
because of what he stood for.
yeah. But again, we got to like you hit on it a few times, but we have to invite dialogue
Hmm.
because if we don't have dialogue, then we're just victims of whatever a group of people want to continue to push our way that feeds into our minds, and that's what we continue to believe, whether
Yeah.
it's on a college campus, whether listen to the news media. And again, that could be in any kind of philosophy or any kind of view. If we only limit ourselves to that field of influence, then we're limiting ourselves, you know?
Right. And what are we looking at now? Like, just because you disagree, now you're at risk for getting killed for it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a
Yeah.
terrible place to be living in, especially in America. But I
Yeah.
think, he was very fascinating too, because he apparently got to start very young, like 18. He was starting to intern with some of the Republican
Well,
conventions and getting to know people, and just
well,
he was
so
just a very unique guy.
what boggled my mind was so he didn't graduate from college, correct?
He never went to college.
No, and yet he was able to engage college students at such an incredible,
Hmm.
intense level
Yeah.
that I bet a lot of professors on campuses would have had a real challenge
I think he
engaging
even
him in
had, yeah, I've
conversations. You
seen
know,
videos where he's had conversations with professors too.
professors,
And
yeah.
yeah.
And again, I'm guessing a lot of his wisdom and his knowledge came from the fact that he was not afraid to learn all kinds of different views and
Yeah.
ideas. Um, I mean, it's to simplify it. It's funny how we can all have our favorite sports team, and that's okay, right? That's my view. Like I'm an Eagles fan, or I'm a Phillies
Yeah.
fan, or I'm a Giants fan, or whatever. And it's like I could be all in for that, but with not a whole lot of education or anything behind any of those theories, it's just
Yeah,
this
that's
is what I
true.
grew up with, right?
That's a
Right?
good point.
Or you
Yeah.
like the colors, or you live in that town, or
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of stuff behind that, but we become fanatics of whatever sports it is, and and yet, why can't we have our own ideas and opinions of different things?
Hmm.
Right? I mean, whether it's I like this kind of food or I like this kind of sport or whatever, why can't we become more of a culture that is just open to, hey, that's great that you like that. That's not my thing. I really like this sport versus that sport, and here's why. But I'm still okay that you're a baseball fan instead of a football fan, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, why can't we do that? Like, why can't we? Why do you think people are so afraid to engage in something that they
Believe in?
don't know, that they aren't sure? I would probably say not sure about
Oh,
what the other person is really saying.
I think some of it's probably fear of them not having the knowledge. So
To
like if
def-
if if they're trying to engage in conversation, they really don't know anything about it, but yet they just want to stand on their firm viewpoint of it without any
yeah,
backing. I would think they should be afraid to have that conversation. But the problem
because
is they're so firm on their stance that they just make it, I'm not even going to talk about it now. Like you brought that up, I can't talk to you anymore. Like that's the reaction to a lot of people.
yeah,
And I mean, I've seen that on so many street videos, street interview videos all over the place from all kinds of independent people that, they'll go and they'll ask about a topic, whether it's political or cultural or whatever, on the streets. And they're asking, what do you think about this? And they just have no clue. They're just like, oh, I don't like it. I don't like it. Well, why don't you like it? Well, just because
right.
I don't like it. And then they keep pressing them. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm not listening to you. I'm walking away. So they're not even willing to engage in a conversation. And I don't know if it's just because it's so divisive of the topic or if it's just people are scared to be called out on it or if they're scared to actually be told the truth. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe people don't want to hear the truth. And again,
Or
not to beat the gender thing to
I
death,
don't
but
know. I don't know if it's
that's a simple discussion. There's two genders. It's biologically proven.
yeah, it's true.
So
I mean,
like to
it's
have a discussion with somebody who doesn't believe that,
yeah,
they're not believing there's two, so you can't have a logical conversation anymore.
yeah, yeah. It is hard when you take out logic from any kind of
Yeah.
debate.
And
Yeah,
I think that's what we're missing the most of is the logic and the critical thinking and the
yeah,
common sense is just been so washed away
yeah.
that you can't have those conversations unless that exists.
No, I mean, we've created a society where there's a lot of different. I mean, let's be blunt. I mean, a lot of different religious views.
Hmm.
I mean, the basic are. I mean, we don't like to use those terms. A lot of people don't like to use those terms because they don't want to talk about religion or something like that. But the reality is, these are basic beliefs,
Yeah.
right? Whether that's superstitious stuff or whether it's crystals or whether it's, I mean, it's all kinds of stuff that people can gravitate towards and their belief systems, right?
Hmm.
Um, but if this, yeah, I mean, but if the sky is blue and you really just
Yeah.
want it to be purple,
Right.
um, I, it is hard to engage in a conversation because it's like, but that's blue. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm all, listen, like, why do you think it, like, tell me why do you believe this sky's purple? Like, I'm all in. I think again, go back to what I saw in Charlie Kirk in this, the few videos I saw was that kind of mindset was,
Yeah.
tell me why you think the
Yep.
sky's purple. Let's
Yeah,
talk
and that's
about
what
that.
generates the discussion. And the
Yes.
discussion doesn't happen unless you keep
Yeah.
asking questions.
Yep.
And again, it's like I can't imagine how frustrating it would have been. He had a lot of grace and mercy, I think, and a lot of patience
Mhm.
because some of those campuses were extremely
Well,
hostile. And he's going in. So that's the other thing I thought about too is like he's going into a hostile environment. He's been doing it for years. He knows the hostility's been growing and growing in the last several years just because we've seen it everywhere.
yeah.
And what I think again I saw from him was he had to be defensive at times, which means you kind of sound a little firmer. You don't always sound so loving when you're kind of defending your point because he was being attacked. And I think it's hard sometimes to just be very calm and gracious in how you respond when you're constantly being negatively attacked.
Yeah.
I think he still did a great job, but there was definitely a conversation I saw with him that he was firm and he was strong on his stance, but he was still loving. He wasn't being nasty to anybody. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of people saw that as, again, like I said before, oh, he wasn't a very kind guy because, he was hateful because he told me this when I thought it was this. And like, is that what we're defining hate as now? Is just a difference of opinion is now becomes hate?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame if you it's if yeah. So if you don't agree with me that the sky's
Yeah,
purple,
you
you
hate me.
must hate me, and it's like, no, that has nothing to do. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe just we live in a culture that is so lacking of love and an understanding of love.
I think it's, well, you hear a lot of people though that's all they're about is, well, we just got to love everybody and we got to accept everybody. So I
Well,
think the love part is in there. I think the thing that's missing is truth. And when you bring up truth, that's what people don't want to hear. And I don't know if they don't want to accept it. I don't know if they don't like it. I don't know if they like where it actually comes from. And really for us, truth only comes from God. I mean, that's the final truth.
yeah, yeah. I
So if you
think,
don't have that truth to stand on, then you could say the sky's purple because I just think it is. In my truth, the
yeah,
sky's purple. And
yeah,
that's kind of the world we were in now.
yeah. I think anybody has to come back to the fact that you have to have a basis for what you believe,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is. And I don't. I mean, it doesn't really matter what your basis is. I mean, I have my basis of my beliefs, but you just have to have a basis because otherwise you're up for however you feel like when you wake up in the morning. I
Yeah.
mean, even down to the smallest conviction: do I go to work today or do I not go to work today? Well, why do you go to work? Like, why do you get up and you go? Well, I believe it's my responsibility to support my family. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to go do my job. Right. If I don't believe that, then I just get up and do nothing. Right. Um, but again, where does that belief come from? What's your basis for what you believe? Right. And I think we're lacking that in our culture. There's so much
Yeah.
confusion. And I would go back to the confusion of love too. I think a lot of people really don't know what love really is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we throw it out so easily, like, oh, we just got to love on each other. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I
What do
love
you?
cheeseburgers too. Like,
I know.
so, you're right. We use the term so loosely that I don't think we know what it means. And again, it goes back to what is the truth behind what love is.
Yeah,
Just like if I'm going to get up in the morning to go to work, what if my truth tells me something different tomorrow? And now I can do what I want tomorrow because my truth changed. So there has to be a basis for the truth of what we're believing. And I think for a lot of people in culture and a lot of people that Charlie Kirk engaged with, they didn't have that basis of a truth. It was like, again, well, my truth is this.
yeah,
Well, that doesn't mean it's really the truth. It's just a feeling that you have
yeah.
or, a thought that you have.
When it goes back to why people are probably so afraid to engage is the insecurity of
Mm,
I not really sure what I believe. I'm not sure where it
mm.
comes from, so I can't engage you. So hatred's easier, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds accurate.
but I also think, a lot of us can learn from this too. The fact of how hard it is to engage in things we do believe in.
Mm,
Again, whatever that is, like, you think football is the best sport in the world, whatever it is. But do we have enough, I'll use the term faith behind that to support it, to say, I'm confident in this, even if nobody around me is, right?
yeah.
And I think all of us could be struggling with that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that, again, I saw in Charlie was he was so confident in his faith. It wasn't just about knowledge. It wasn't just about facts. It was that he was very secure in his relationship with God through Christ,
Mm-hmm.
that nothing could change that. Nothing could affect
No.
that. And what a boy, if everybody on this planet had such a strong, deep faith in what they believe in, um, wow. I mean, I would think this world would be a much better place. Again, whatever views they are, but just the fact that I'm confident, I'm not offended by you
Right.
because I'm confident in who I am and what I
Yeah.
am and what I believe. I
Yeah.
don't need you to. I don't need you to give me credibility. I don't need to have your approval. I feel confident and secure in who I am, what I believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes perfect sense because, like you said, I think that's what we're all lacking, or, well, a lot of us are lacking is
Yeah.
not being able to stand firm on what you actually believe. And if you did, it would look totally different. And I mean, I think after his death, I think the biggest thing that hit me was I need to be bolder. I mean, he was so bold, not just in everything he believed on a conservative viewpoint, family values, again, some of the politics of things, but just his faith in God and how he wasn't afraid to share that no matter where he went.
Mm.
and not afraid to have that as his basis for everything else that he believed. And I just really, it really hit me to really be convicted to think I need to be bolder for my faith. I mean, we're called to share our faith with others. That's what the Bible tells us. And how often are we missing opportunities out of fear or out of, depending on who we're talking to, or different situations or circumstances? And I kind of felt convicted. I want to be bolder in my faith. And I honestly, it was inspired by Charlie's life to do so,
Yeah.
especially after his death. I mean, it was more prominent to me after his death, and seeing all those around. I mean, there's, his organization, Turning Point USA, it's still going strong. They have a lot of support. And again, there's a lot of political stuff that they're trying to run through and just, keep conservative values in politics as
Yeah.
it should be. And, it's amazing to see there's like a 12-year-old or 13-year-old kid that picked up the mantle and said he's going to be the next Charlie Kirk. And he's like wearing a suit and he's going around talking to people. There's
Wow.
so many people that have been inspired to either go on college campuses. There's another young guy, Brinlin, I think his name is. He's been going to college campuses. He's like 18. And it's just, he's inspired so many people. And I think that's what's been amazing, is just to see how bold people have been, recognizing his boldness and his faith.
Oh, and I mean, it was. I mean, he's a martyr for.
Yeah.
I mean, for so many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That emboldens people.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, we see it in the Christian faith. I mean, we fortunately don't have a lot of experience here in this country. Obviously, this is one indication that, man, it is out there and it's pretty scary. But in so many other countries where Christianity is just, and other religions too, are just put down and persecuted, it doesn't squelch the faith of those who are following something. It emboldens them, which is crazy. You think it would have just the opposite effect, but
well,
it's
you
like,
look at,
wow.
I mean, you look at even Christ. I mean, when he died, look what happened. Like the church blew up.
It
And
did.
it's interesting because it's been so interesting, because I think I've listened to a lot of different stuff after his death, and there's lots of different big churches, big name preachers that had no qualms about bringing it up the week after it happened. There's a lot of other churches that didn't even say a word.
Mhm.
And it's just weird to me that if we're all believers together, like, you got to put the politics aside. The guy was preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other discussion. I guess we could have another time. Like, how do you separate politics and faith? I don't know that you can, honestly. And there's lots of examples we could probably bring up about how that does fit together. But in Charlie's life, they were very well connected. And I think a lot of churches were scared of the politics side of it, to not want to say, hey, we got to talk about what happened.
It's possible. Yeah.
And what's so sad to me is, like, why? Every faith-based, Bible-believing church in America should have mentioned something about his death,
Well, even
and just about the whole incident. And it's shocking that it didn't happen that way.
I look at it as, forget everything else. Like, forget his beliefs, forget anything. Just the fact that a human being, his life was taken by another human being in such a public setting and stuff like that. We, just as followers of Christ, we should just be sympathetic of that. Like, I don't care who. It didn't matter who it was. Like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it could even be the. I don't know, somebody you don't agree with totally at all, like, or somebody who's a really vile person. But for somebody to take their life like that, that's just horrible. It really
But I think in
is.
his case, it was very different, though. I mean, this is a guy that was preaching the gospel boldly
Yeah.
on college campuses across America, in churches, in buildings. And I think every church should have recognized the fact that we had a martyr. And like you said, there's no other way to explain him. I mean, some people don't even want to call him that, but he died for what he believed in. And a lot of times I'm thinking through, like some people might get offended by it, but how different was he than Paul? Paul was working in political fields, in politics, and his faith was getting mixed depending on where he was trying to preach.
Yeah, he was.
And he had to be bold in what he was saying. And I often wonder, like, we don't have video of Paul, but maybe sometimes when Charlie was being firm on how he was standing on things and people looked at that as not being so loving, maybe Paul was very similar in how he had to be firm sometimes when he was talking to certain groups of people that were wanting to kill him or were very violent against him. So I don't know any other way to explain it besides I think this is the most modern day martyr we've ever seen.
Yeah. In our country. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, like I heard he was poised to be the next president. Like I was blown away by that kind of comment. I'm like, okay,
Well,
did
I
you hear
think
much about that at all before?
yeah, I've
Or?
heard a few things. And that's the hard part too, is like, if we throw that under the rug, like that's a major, major deal. Like, not only did you just assassinate a guy who talks about his faith and talks about the conservative Republican side of things, if you just took out a guy that was potentially going to be the president one day, that's pretty bold. I mean, we really should be talking more about that. So there's been several interviews he had within the last couple of years, and they asked him, they said, would you consider it? He's like, no, right now I'm just focusing on Turning Point USA and what we're doing and the wonderful work that we're doing and standing behind different candidates to help them. I don't have any interest in being president. But a lot of his colleagues around him recognize the fact that he probably could have been a president one day. And whether it was now or 10 years from now, I mean, he was only 31. So,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, even if it was 10 years from now, he's only 41.
I was gonna say he
Like,
wasn't allowed to be a president yet.
right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people who think that he definitely had that much influence, that much knowledge that he could have easily run and possibly won to be president.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
And I
never
think,
know.
I don't know how much of what you saw afterwards, but I think that was the other inspiring thing was, I mean, the memorial service that they had for him was unbelievable, with the amount of people that were not only there in person and the amount of people that spoke and the worship that was done by, big name worship artists, and also the reach. I think they said it reached about 1 million people or more, based on everything that was streamed online and across the world. So I mean, to have the message preached boldly at that, and it was preached boldly multiple times, and to me it was very encouraging to hear even our Secretary of State preaching the gospel. I wasn't expecting that from him.
Wow. Yeah.
And he was pretty bold on it, and so that to me was very encouraging. I know it got a lot of negative press from the other side of things, but it just proves again that God is God, and he's gonna make himself known wherever he can. And I think he was definitely very evident in Charlie's life, and in that memorial service for him, it was all about God.
Yeah. So I understand so the organization had like 5,000, I don't know what do you call it, charter clubs or whatever, like that kind of thing, and now they're up to like 50,000. Like it
Yeah,
blew up that gap.
it blew up, and
Yeah.
not only colleges but high school. All the chapters like exploded, as far as how many chapters are now being started and established in different high schools and colleges across America.
Wow, what an impact!
Yeah, it's definitely a huge impact.
Yeah. So what's a takeaway for you? What's a mulligan? We're on Take a Mulligan podcast, and what would you? I don't know. Maybe go back before the assassination. What would you, if you could have? I don't know, if you could do something different. Obviously, we can't affect. I mean, we don't know Charlie. We don't know anything about, like,
I think for me, the biggest thing would be actually since his death. Like I said, I think my biggest mulligan is I now want to be bolder. I want to be bolder in my faith, through love, but I want to definitely be bolder in my faith. And that's probably the biggest redo that I would have now after his death. I don't think I would have thought of it the same had he still been alive. I mean, I think I was encouraged and inspired by, what he did and how he did it, but I don't think I would have felt the same if it wasn't for his death, which is sad. But it was very impactful to recognize who he was and the fact that he wasn't afraid to stand up for it. So that's what I would say is my mulligan, is I want to move forward now after that and be much bolder in my faith in every way.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Well, why don't we wrap up with that, Bri? Thanks for joining us today, and it's been great to be back on the air again, and we're looking forward to some pretty neat topics coming up. I think next time we're going to be talking about AI. So I hope you'll join us as we jump into that topic. So everybody take care, and looking forward to being here again.
We know everyone can use a second chance or a do-over. So take a mulligan and try again. Thanks so much for joining with us today. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Like, click, and subscribe.